Welcome back to Max Codes. Today I'm going to show you how we can essentially build a Instagram style layout with the UICollectionView documentation, right? We want to learn straight from the documentation. STFD, it's a little series I'm doing. All right, we're going to learn straight from the documentation the way Apple wants us to learn, basically, so we can write good software for their devices, right? For other people, so we can make those big dollars, okay? So if you look here, this is just an article I wrote on the UICollectionView. I'm going to be referencing it a bit, maybe. I'm not sure yet. It's not exactly the same app at all. Like, this is an Instagram layout, but it's almost exactly the same. Like, the sizes are just different, okay? So if you want to read this video, basically, just look here. This will teach you the exact same things in a little bit different of a way, okay? And yeah, I do them on Medium, not Redium. So you can check back on my account on Medium, and there will be a lot of iOS articles. Okay, so let's get into today's video, though, or you're going to leave and not watch my video. Okay, so I'm going to go over here, and let's create a new Xcode project. So I'm going to open up Xcode and say Command-Shift-New. And this is like my 5th take of this video, so I'm going to call it UICollectionView STFD. I still have to get good at recording videos, but I'm just kind of like, whatever. They can be bad, but they're going to be good because that doesn't make any sense. Okay, so go ahead and delete this nasty comment, and I'm going to open up my deal so it's a bit bigger. I'll put my face up there, and I'll put my iPhone right here. Okay, so this is the XS simulator. I'll zoom in just a little bit more because I'm really not sure how big this looks. I'll check the video this time to see. And then to switch over to Chrome, I'm just going to be hitting Command-Tab a lot. Okay, that's good. And then I'm going to zoom out a bit. And then we're just going to be referencing this as we go on, okay? So the first thing we need to worry about is this description. It says an object that manages an ordered collection of data items and presents them using a customizable layout. So like Instagram, or like what you see here on the iPhone. I'm not sure how they did that, but I would imagine it's something to do with collection view, okay? And then this is a collection view. So if you're here, you probably know what a collection view is, okay? So I want to start with the topics because I'm not going to go read all this. If I was just going to read all this and explain it word for word, then I would have just left the link and no video, right? Like, it's all here, but I want to put it in a format you can quickly understand it from, okay? So we're going to scroll down to topics and start there. First thing we need to do is initialize our collection view to use it. So it initializes and returns a newly allocated collection view object with the specified frame and layout, okay? Now, one thing about frames, I don't like to use frames typically. I'll use them on like small things like buttons or icons, and images maybe, but for my views, I generally don't ever, because I like auto layout constraints, and I like to do it in code, okay? I don't use Interface Builder ever unless I have to for a job, like if I'm working with people who do, okay? So what we want to do is initialize it. Now, we're not going to use a init. We're just going to use the constructor with, just with the parentheses like any other class. And then we'll move on immediately to data source. And then we'll see if we can fit the rest in this video without it being like 20 minutes long. Okay, so let's go into our application here, our code. And let's say, and that's why I'm freaking out right now, is because I'm trying to make it quick, but like not too quick. Anyway, let collection view, let's just say CV is equal to UI collection view. And we need to provide this with two parameters, okay, a frame dot 0 because I don't use frames. And then collection view layout is going to be an instance of UI collection view flow layout, but I'm just going to say layout so I can define it up here. Also, another thing, you'll be able to go through my videos a lot quicker if you read the article beforehand, okay? I wrote that Medium article last night. If you read my articles, and then the next day I put out videos, if you read my articles and then you go through the videos, then you'll understand more of what's going on, even if it's not the same thing. Like, we're not going to be doing the same layout, but all the concepts are exactly the same pretty much. We're going to go through the same parts of the UI collection view docs, like data source, flow layout, and junk like that. So if you go through the article briefly, even if it's briefly, even if you just like read over it and you don't even like code it, then you'll be able to go through the videos faster. Anyway, let's say in our code now, it's giving us a warning because we're not using it. It says initialization, blah, blah, blah. Pretty self-explanatory. We need to use it. So let's say view.addSubView, and we'll say CV. And the next thing we need to do to ensure we can use programmatic constraints is say cv.translates auto-resizing mask into constraints is equal to false, and then we'll give it constraints. So we'll say cv.topAnchor.constraint, and then we'll select this one with the constant field, and we'll say view.topAnchor, and then we'll say constant of 40 pixels. We'll put it down 40 pixels. Then we need to say it's active. If we do this, it's not going to do anything. But if we say is active is equal to true, then it will apply. Okay. So what you need to do is copy this 3 times, and then obviously, or maybe not so obviously, but what we need to do is we need to say bottom anchor on this one, bottom anchor on this one, and then let's say left anchor on this one, left anchor on this one, and right anchor on this one. Okay, so we're gonna, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's just that the reason you're at a video is because you're not gonna know the code. You're not gonna know, oh, I need to type out cv.rightAnchor.constraint. You're not gonna know that off the top of your head. But once you see me type it out, you'll be able to understand it, and then we'll reference the documentation, stuff like that. This video isn't on constraints, obviously, but that just came to my mind, so I said it. Okay, so we top anchor 40, bottom anchor 40, left anchor. Okay, now with the left and bottom anchors, you got to be careful, or the bottom and right. It's gonna, you want to minus it so it pulls it in. Okay, think of it in the center. Okay, we want to say minus 40, and then at the right we want to say minus 40. If we say 40 and 40 on the bottom and right, it's basically going to push it down 40 and over to the right 40. We want to pull it in. It's kind of like padding if you have a CSS grid. Okay, so what we need to do is give it a background color. We're not going to see it, even though it's going to be on our screen. So before building it to your phone or your simulator, go ahead and say, what was it going to do? Oh yeah, cv.background_color is equal to .yellow, okay, or .blue or something, right? I would have gotten that color from my article, but I don't want to have to go all the way over there and snatch it and make the video longer and more confusing. So let's just say .yellow, like this can. Dang, dude, I'm weird. All right, so what we need to do is build it now, and you'll see that we have this on the screen, and it looks pretty nice. Okay. One thing I'm going to do is switch the left anchor to 20 and the right anchor to 20, negative 20 obviously, just because I want it to look a little bit different. The reason I did 40 on the top is because when I was building out the article, since I did the same exact thing with constraints, if you do 20, it's like halfway down the notch, and it looks like really bad, like the notch itself, but you know. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's get started. I meant to say bottom anchors 20 as well. No, let's do 40. I'm sorry. Okay, let's go. I don't want to make this video super confusing. We haven't even done anything with the CV yet. Okay, so we have our layout, okay? So this is an important thing we need to note. So I'll just say 1, I'll label that as 1, and then at the end of the video, we might go through it, we might not. Okay, now what we want to do is actually get data into our collection view, okay? So I'm going to flip over to the docs, get this all in, and you'll see that we have now initialized our collection view. The next thing is providing the collection view data. We need to give it some data, like a label or something, right? So let's see, data source, UICollectionView data source, okay? I'll let you read these by yourself, but basically the UICollectionView data source is, it requires us to implement a few methods, okay? UICollectionView data source protocol. Protocol is a keyword, all right? Pretty nice word, all right? And it's responsible for providing data, blah, blah, blah. Basically, we need to give some data to our collection view, and we can do it through this protocol. So let's go ahead, and we're not gonna cover prefetching in this video. That's more advanced. Okay, so basically, let's go into our application, and let's write an extension. We could put it straight up here, but I'm gonna write an extension to keep it clean. A view controller, and UICollectionView data source. And then we're going to implement the methods required. Should give us an error and want to implement them for us, or you can just implement them by typing. So if you hit fix, it's going to implement these two methods, number of items and self-write map. Okay, so number of items, we want to return, let's say items.count, but where are items coming from? Good question. We haven't declared them yet. So let's go to the top of our collection view, and let's say let items is equal to an array, and we'll say that this array, I've been doing a lot of JavaScript, so let's not do that. Let's say items, and we'll say 1. I'll just put these all on the same line. We'll say 2. We'll say 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so we have 7 items, and we want to return items count, so that's how many items. And then let's see, let's return a number of sections. Let's say, I guess we don't need to, I thought we did, but let's do it anyway. Let's say section number of sections, return 1. We just want to return 1 section, okay? And then we're not going to worry about sections in this video, but basically it gives you more sections, if that makes sense. Yeah, basically like titled collections, essentially. Okay, for cell for item app, we just want to say let cell is equal to UICollectionView cell. Maybe we don't. We want to say let cell is equal to CollectionView dot, let's say DQ reusable cell with reuse identifier, and I'm going to put a constant. I'm going to say cell ID, and then I'm going to hit tab and say index path. Okay. Now what we're going to do is say as. No, we don't need to do that. We're going to use a standard collection view. Let's just return the cell. And then one thing we need to do before any of this works is we need to provide a constant called cell ID, and then we need to register it. Okay, and those are specific concepts that I wouldn't say apply to the data source exactly. They do, but they're just like their own concept as well. Like if you scroll down in topics, you'll find reuse identifiers and junk. But we're just going to worry about the items, but we have to do this to get stuff displaying. Okay, so let's say let cell ID. Let's go up here and let's say let cell ID is equal to, and we'll put a string here, and we'll just say ASD. Okay. Now the thing is, might be confusing to you. It's kind of like Redux actions types. You don't need this to be cell ID. This could be cell ID, but basically we just need this to be the same as what we're going to use in the register call. So let's go into line 24ish and say cv.register, and I'll explain what this does in a second. But basically we're going to say any class, we're going to say UI collection view cell.self. Okay, now what we're going to do is hit tab and say for cell with reuse identifier cell ID. Okay, so the reason we do this is because if we accidentally make a typo here, it's going to catch it before we compile our app, right? It's going to say, hey, this doesn't exist. What are you doing, right? Whereas if we just had a string here, we might have a typo and it's not going to catch it, and then we compile our app and it breaks. All right, we want to catch errors before we compile, just because it will help us debug quicker. Okay, so that's a pretty important concept. I'll just mark that, I guess. And then, yeah, I'll get rid of the marks because that doesn't make any sense. All right, so what we want to do is now return our app, or reload our application, right? And we'll see some white cells, most likely. All right, well, we actually won't because we didn't conform to the protocol, all right? Now, the way we can get these methods to actually do anything is by going into our code and saying cv.dataSource, all right, saying the object that provides the data for the collection view is equal to self. Okay, so we're basically saying it's equal to view controller, all right? This data source is in view controller. Let's run these methods for our collection view. Okay, so as you can see, nothing happened, but if we reload our application now, or recompile it, you'll see that we have some white cells on the screen. All right. All right. So where did they go? All right. Let's say cell.background color is equal to .white. Or it's probably because we didn't return a size, but I'm pretty sure they have a default size. Okay. So cell.background color is white. Return cell, and I'm not seeing our cells. So why is that? We have our items, return cell. Okay, let's hit this debugger and see if we can have our cells. We are going to hit this debug view hierarchy down here at the bottom, these three little iPhone looking things, screen looking things, and you'll see that we have this debugger here. Okay, now as you can see, we just have our UI collection view and there's no really cells. We're not seeing any cells on there. Okay, so it's not that there's no color, it's that we don't see it. Okay, so good thing we ran into that, so I could show you the debugger a bit. And let's see, return number of items in section. We're saying CV data source is equal to self. It should be working. Let me check my article and see what's going on, because that's how you do it. All right, cell.data source. We've registered the cell, and it's still not working. See, it's the exact same code. I wonder why it's not working. Let's go to Xcode and let's say UICollectionView data source, self. Okay, that's the problem. Let's say UICollectionView flow layout up here. And let's reload our application. Has nothing to do with the data source, but you know. That's the only thing it could be. Okay, so you'll see we have our cells here now. Okay, now let's get rid of this nasty color and let's just make it gray or something, and then let's make these cells like a let's just make them like UIColor.gray with alpha component 0.4, so they're gray, but then like less gray. That's not going to work though, because that's gray, which means it's going to look a little weird. Let's say UIColor.black with alpha component 0.4. Okay, so basically this is going to give us our cells. Let's reload the page, and or not the page, the application. Let's recompile it, and you'll see now that we have better colors. And then one thing we need to do is we need to go back to the documentation and look more on this stuff, okay? Because you'll see we have our cells, except for they're not the size we want. Okay, so what we just learned about is the UICollectionView data source, which provides us with methods like number of items. Okay, so you return the items count and number of sections, 1. All right, look what happens if we return 2. Okay, it's basically gonna duplicate it. Okay, let's wait for this. I want it to hurry because I know this video is going on real long. Okay, yeah, so this looks weird, but it's just because the section starts right there. It's actually just a separate block like that. It's just that there happens to be another one like right next to it, so it looks like they're connected, but they're not. All right, so that's how sections work. I won't go into in depth with that. We only want to worry about one section like Instagram. And let's go ahead and learn about the flow layout delegate, because that's what we need to worry about next. So let's go hop over to the documentation, and I'm going to scroll down to creating collection view cells. That's what we'll talk about, because that's what we just did. Okay, we created collection view cells and we managed the data source. Okay, so we have register, right? Register a class for use in creating new collection view cells. That's exactly what we did on line 24 here. We registered it with cell ID, and then back in our code or in our documentation, we have DQ reusable cell with identifier. Okay, so it says returns a reusable cell object located by its identifier. Okay, so we assigned UICollectionView to this cell identifier, and then we DQ'd it down here each time a cell comes in with the same identifier. So it knows it's a UICollectionView cell, and then we could use custom cells in here in the future. Okay, so, and you can have multiple cell types and then say, okay, if this is the case, then let's return this type of cell, like a bigger cell or something like that, right? Okay. So let's learn about the flow layout now. All right, so changing the layout, collection view layout. All right, let's see if flow layout's in here. All right, and then we've already done number of items. It gets a little random down here. And let's say collection view flow layout. Okay, just Google it, or not Google it, find it. It's up here. If you just hit Command F and say UICollectionView flow layout, you'll be able to find it. So I'm gonna click on that, and that's at this link up here. And basically it says a concrete layout object that organizes items into a grid with an optional header and footer views for each section. Okay, we're not going to worry about all the sections and headers, but we're going to worry about the sizes and stuff. Okay, so we need the delegate object must conform to UICollectionView delegate flow layout protocol. Okay, all right, now that's the delegate that we're going to basically get our methods from, kind of like the data source. So let's go down here. It says configuring the layout protocol, right? That's what we need to do. And then there's all these, which we'll talk about in a second, okay? So let's get this protocol and let's put it in our application extension. Okay, so you'll see it has methods like size for item at. This is the method we're worried about, okay? Now this probably didn't make any sense, but I just want to make it clear to you that these all kind of connect. The documentation is connected, okay? So let's go in here and let's conform it to that protocol. So let's say UICollectionView delegate flow layout. And let's go down here and let's say size for item at. And let's just return a CG size. And then we'll say the width is view.frame.width divided by 3. And the height will be view.frame.width divided by 3. Okay, so they're going to be basically 1 by 1, right? They're going to be the same width and height. But you'll see that nothing happens, and that's because we didn't set the delegate. So what we need to do is under data source, we'll say cv.delegate is equal to self. And that will allow us to basically tell it that we have this in our class and we want to run this code. Okay, so now if you reload it, you will see the sizes we want. But there's going to be a warning in our console, and we'll talk about why. And then we'll learn a little bit more about our collection view flow layout and how we can get rid of that warning. Okay, so you'll see that it is a little weird, right? It shows us that we don't have 3 by 3, right? If it's divided by 3, we should have 3, right? The reason this doesn't work is because we've inset it by 20 and 20, okay? So what we need to do is we can either get rid of the inset or change this to collection view. We can say collection view.frame.width. And the reason this would work is because the collection view has its own width, right? And that's whatever it is calculated after these constants. So it's going to be fine. All right, there might be a default inset, which will cause it to fall down still, but I don't think there is. We'll see. Okay, so there it looks like there's a default inset. Okay, now we can get rid of this error here, or logic error, and by doing this. Let's go up to layout and let's modify the attributes directly, okay? Because if you tab over into the Chromes real quick, the documentation, you'll see that if you go down, we can either do it with methods, like we did here, or we can modify it directly to the, not delegate, but to the flow layout itself, right? The flow layout, not the delegate. All right, so like right here, it says minimum line spacing. You can do these same things in the methods, all right? See, even item sizes in there, and that's what we just did here. Okay, so you can modify the flow layout directly, or you can modify it using the delegate flow layout. So let's try doing it with the flow layout itself. Okay, so let's say layout dot minimum inter item spacing, and let's say the minimum spacing used between items in signal. Let's say 0. And then while that's compiling, let's switch over to our docs here, and let's just see what we got. We have estimated item size, section inset. All right, we're not worried about sections too much here. All right, well, point is, you can see that this works now, okay? Now that's probably just something to do with the simulator. I bet on your phone if you compile this, nothing would happen. But basically, you'll see that they fit. But now you'll see that we have this random like space here. So we can get rid of that by saying something like layout dot section, not section inset, but what was it called? Minimum line spacing. Okay, so inter item is the minimum spacing used between items in the same row. Exactly what we just did. Minimum line spacing is to do with basically all of them, lines and rows and columns, right? So you can think of it as CSS grid if you know anything about that. This is by saying grid row gap, or grid gap instead of grid row gap, or grid column gap. So we'll say 0, and then we'll comment this junk out, and we'll reload the page, or we'll recompile our application, and you'll see now that we don't have our nasty spaces. Whoa, where did this iPhone come from? There's 2. That's cool. Okay, so, oh, it's building on the XR again. That's annoying. Okay, and we still have to get rid of our inter-item spacing. My bad. That's just for the minimum line spacing. Documentation. Okay, sweet. You'll see it works now. Compile this on your phone if you have it set up, and you'll see that these lines most likely don't appear. All right, so that's how you build that little layout. Now, what we need to do is we need to basically make another video where we can put images in these, right? So what I'm gonna do is end the video here, and then in the next video, we will put images in here so it's kind of like an Instagram layout. But basically, that's how you get a basic Instagram layout. So I'll see y'all later.